Welcome to Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in San Diego today, and we are joined by the new city attorney of that great city. Her name is Elliott. Congratulations. Tremendous victory. How is your new job? You were chief deputy, but now you're chief of the entire department.
Yes, it felt like a very natural transition.
Okay.
It helps that I already knew everybody's names.
Right.
I know what everybody does. I understand our mission. So what I got in and did is reprioritize some of the things that we're working on based on the campaign I ran for the last couple of years.
So what are those new priorities?
Well, it's really working within our neighborhoods, and I think you and I have spoken about this before. I think it's more important than ever to have our deputy city attorneys working directly with law enforcement out of every police division to train, to work up the cases. We're also getting to know our neighborhoods. We go to planning group meetings and town council meetings. We present on what we're working on. We take a lot of complaints. Usually it's complaints when you go to those meetings. And then we come back and we explain what it is that we did to address the complaints.
To me, that's what's so unique and wonderful about city attorney offices.
Yeah.
In the district attorney's office, as I understand it, they're dealing with very serious violent crimes. Whereas in your office, you're dealing with serious issues, but you have time to get into the neighborhoods, like you said, and try to create better environments for us every day.
Absolutely. I think that's the big difference. Our focus is on quality of life crimes. The district attorney is focused on felonies, murders, child abusers, rapists. And our work is also important. We work directly with our neighborhoods so that they come to us first before they sue us. We build trust. Right. The last thing I think any San Diego wants to do is pick up the paper and read about problems that are happening in the neighborhood. So I figure if we can start to build the trust gap between government and our residents, we're going to see a drop-off.
Let's talk about the city being sued, because that is a problem that many cities face.
Yes.
And there's always a kind of push-pull. Should we settle this case for 6, 7, even 8 figures, or do we roll the dice and go to the jury?
Right.
Los Angeles specifically has faced some real challenges as it relates to those types of pieces of litigation. San Diego has as well, but it seems like San Diego may be doing a little bit better than some of its sister cities on the litigation front as it relates to those types of lawsuits, wrongdoing.
Yes, and you were a lawyer,
right,
so you
yes,
understand that our judicial system is not predictable. But what I have brought into this office is if we can fight it, we're going to fight it. We need to send a very strong message to attorneys that if they're going to bring a claim against the city of San Diego, we're going to the mat on it.
Right.
Now, sometimes it makes business sense for us to settle. There's always that calculation in your mind, but I am always more inclined to fight it until the last moment, because the worst thing that can happen in San Diego is that people think there's a recipe for an instant payout. And I don't want a certain set of facts to always result in a payout. That's my job.
That's a challenging position, though, at times.
Yes.
You know, facts are malleable, I guess you could say. One can see them differently depending on from where you sit. Do the city council have to approve settlements?
They do.
So that presents a political calculation that can be challenging,
does.
and so that's a new role for you.
It is.
And so you've been able in your first 3-4 months to kind of perpetuate that model?
I think so. The important thing for our policymakers and we don't have any lawyers on our city council right now.
That's surprising.
It is.
Just
it's interesting, and that's good in some respects, and sometimes it's not so good. But they expect for me to come forward and say, here's the facts, here are the pros and cons of going to trial, and here are the pros and cons of settling it. And then they take all that into account and decide what they think is best for the city of San Diego.
And I have to think that playing that role is, again, a bit of a change for you. I don't know if you did this as chief deputy, that you would interact with the city council on these matters, but are you more active now that you are the city attorney?
Absolutely. I monitor every single trial and settlement that's going to be brought before them. I sit through every closed session. I weigh in. I'm on the same page as the deputies who are presenting. We come as a united front, but we also work with our client departments, because the departments are just as engaged in presenting the case to our policymakers so that they feel comfortable in their decisions.
At the same time, there's another push-pull that governments are dealing with, and that is the question of pensions.
Yes.
Look, our public employees have worked for many years, and it's easy to beat up on them
Right.
Just them generally. Specifically, we love them generally. They're taking from the till. But there is a view that we need to look at pension reform. The voters of San Diego passed some pension reforms.
They did.
And ultimately, your office was asked to defend the process behind what's known as Proposition B. Without getting too much into the weeds, because it's easy to do that, talk us through this idea of defending positions that could be wildly unpopular with some of your friends who also work in government.
I think that's a very difficult position to be in, but I have a job, and that is to represent the city. The voters overwhelmingly approved pension reform back in 2012. Our council has been fighting for this. It's an important priority for the mayor and for our budget.
Right.
So we recently prevailed in our case defending Proposition B, pension reform.
And what's most impressive about that win is you prevailed in the appellate court, but that win was a reversal of a lower entity.
That's correct.
It's not easy to get anything reversed, we know, as lawyers.
Right.
And so your office must have really presented some compelling arguments for the appellate court to reverse.
We worked very hard. We did a lot of practice and mock type
that's fun. I did mock moot court. I remember that from law school.
Now it's not over because the
Are they going
union,
up to the Supremes?
The request has been placed before the state Supreme Court.
Wow.
They'll decide whether or not they want to hear that. We should be getting some type of an answer within the next month or two.
Let us know. Here's an area where you wouldn't realize that the city attorney needs to get involved, and that is protecting our coasts. Who knew?
Yes.
Who knew that the city attorney would get involved in protecting our beautiful coast in San Diego? But you did. Tell us about this case. It's but one incident, but it kind of sets the tone, and it dealt with abalone.
Yes, we have some protected resources along our coastline, and our office is responsible for enforcing the law on that.
Right.
We had a poacher of abalone, which is a protected marine species.
Right.
This person was observed doing that, and our public cares very much about these issues. It was reported to us. We went after him, and we held him accountable. Unfortunately, he again offended.
Oh, you're kidding.
So we're going to take this to the mat as we're required to do. This is really important for us to protect our not only consumers but our environment. We have a hotline. Usually we rely on the public to observe because we can't be everywhere.
And that's key, and I think that's important that you mention that because, look, relations right now with law enforcement, they've ebbed and flowed through the years. After 9/11, they were at a high. Now there's some concerns with some of our communities of color in terms of interacting with law enforcement. So do talk to us about the importance of cooperation and a sense of confidence.
I'm so glad you raised that because I think more than ever people are very cautious about contacting law enforcement to report things. There are folks that do not have legal status in this country who may not want to come forward. We need them to talk to us and tell us when they are victims or they observe crimes.
And the sad thing is, I don't mean to take a position, but it is sad that we know by early studies that folks are not contacting when they are victims, because even if they are documented, they're fearful because their aunt's not or their husband's not or whatever it may be.
Absolutely. And I'm very concerned that we're going to see a drop-off in our caseload because of that. And
so what are you doing in our final moments to create that confidence?
We're sending out the message that a victim is a victim. We don't look at their legal status. We're going to protect them. That is our job as the city attorney's office. We've also supported the state's chief justice, who has called upon the federal government not to use courthouses to bait people who may have questionable status.
Her name is Mara Elliott. She is the city attorney for the city of San Diego, where we are today. My name is Brad Pomerance. Thanks for joining us on Local Edition.